Thank you all so much for coming back. I have the really great honor of introducing our next speaker, who's going to give a keynote for this convening. And I just want to also say that we've been talking a lot today about podcasts and independent media, and so as one of the things that we'll do when we send out the recordings of the sessions from this, we can also make sure we link to all of the resources that have been created and produced by the team up here so that you all can consume those media as well as the kind of opening clips, so it's all in one place for folks. And feel free to share those with your networks too. So I'm really delighted to welcome Yohance Lacour to come speak next. Yohance is a writer from the South Side of Chicago who's committed to telling stories of Black Chicago from the ground. He's always had feet in multiple worlds and has been a playwright, a journalist, and an entrepreneur. These varied experiences have served to provide a unique perspective around topics that generally prove to be polarizing and divisive in today's society. After serving a decade-long sentence in federal prison, he returned home in 2017 to resume his tradition of Black storytelling, and he currently runs the luxury leather label YJ Lacour and was recently featured in Smithsonian Magazine. He is also a Pulitzer Prize winner and Peabody Award winner for his podcast produced by the Invisible Institute, You Didn't See Nothing. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about that podcast, give you the background description, and you're going to hear some audio clips of that during his remarks today. So in 1997, Leonard Clark was beaten into a coma by a gang of older white teens simply for being Black in a white neighborhood. The media quickly turned toward stories of reconciliation and racial healing with cooperation by Black leaders and the attacker's family. At the time of the attack, Yohance was in his early 20s, writing plays, selling weed, and living at his dad's house on the south side of Chicago. Unable to stand by as the media transformed that hate crime into a fairy tale of racial reconciliation, Lacour began working with a local neighborhood newspaper to investigate the vicious hate crime. You Didn't See Nothing finds Yohance back in Chicago after a 10-year prison sentence, tracking down key players to examine how the story connects to the present moment, reflect on his role as a journalist and storyteller, and explore the exploit of power in Chicago. We are really lucky to get to hear today from Yohance Lacour. Yohance, welcome and thank you.
Appreciate it, Katie. And it's an honor to be here and build with y'all. I'm thankful for this conference. Thankful to be, in community with amazing journalists like y'all. Man, I've learned so much. I'm not like a big statistics guy. I guess I'm an experiential learner, and so I want to just kind of share with y'all some of the stuff that the things I've seen have brought me to. Yeah, so you gave me a good intro. You kind of tells you who I am. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to create a speech for the day. Keynote at Harvard, like that. I was in a prison cell 7 years ago, and I got a Peabody and a Pulitzer, and I'm keynoting at Harvard, and I wanted to get I wanted to think about how to come with a beautiful, elegant speech or something. And then last Tuesday happened, and it made me kind of want to recontextualize things because I feel like it was really crunch time right now. And so let's start there. Everything we're dealing with, I think that too often we look past the fact that it's rooted in slavery. Very little has changed in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, obviously, a lot has changed. But when you think about the fact that we were regarded as 3/5 human and subhuman and sex crazed, basically so that slave owners and white folks could be subhuman and sex crazed and savage in their treatment of us and justify it. And the same thing is going on. That's the core issue. The core issue is that the 13th Amendment did not abolish the culture of slavery. Culture is communication. It didn't abolish the language of slavery. When General Lee and them surrendered, it wasn't because they had a change of heart. It was because they were outmanned and outgunned. And they walked away from that They didn't change their minds and they didn't change their language. So their journalists and their storytellers continue to tell stories in the same vein. And, for folks who, there was a period of time when I was younger, I grew up, in a house full of African art and black books. And, and so it was, I wore the African medallions and I was, I learned about, our struggle early. I got uncles who was Panthers. I got one who was a civil rights attorney in Harlem. So I was exposed to a lot of that. So I understood a lot of that. And I also, I'm from Hyde Park, south side of Chicago. Excuse me, that's the home, probably know University of Chicago, and it's also a stone's throw away from, what they call, and it probably is one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in Chicago. So I saw both sides of a lot of things, and I experienced a lot of things. And so coming up, it was kind of like, pro-black was a thing. And it never left me. But I remember a period of time when it wasn't a thing, when I started feeling alone. And it was like, the guys are, you on that black shit? And it was like, yeah, I am. And then it was I remember now. I don't think I paid as much attention, understood what was going on at the time. But I remember that's when I started hearing a lot of folks talk about how far in the past slavery was and how it was then. And if you deny the lingering effects of slavery, you have either been irreversibly brainwashed, you are evil in nature, or just willfully ignorant. I mean, food recipes, folklore, governmental structures have survived since slavery and been strengthened. How could the spirit of it not? When I challenge anyone who acts as if slavery is a thing of the past to tell me when the spirit was crushed. When were the ideas and the thoughts and the languages of slavery's slavery's biggest supporters, when was that abolished? In the same way that that language was used to justify this type of treatment then of slave patrols and of slave owners, it's being done today to justify over-policing and mass incarceration. I'll tell you a story. I remember, so one of the first times I remember seeing someone I knew, like a peer, that I knew personally in the papers. I was in high school. It was about 4 or 5 cats. A few of them are good friends of mine now. They've grown up with me, and they're lawyers and businessmen and beautiful family men. So it was after school one day, and it was probably after like a football practice or something, so the building is relatively empty, and they just, and so they poking around, and they roaming the school while it's empty, and they sneak into like a science lab. And they start, pulling out beakers and flasks and whatnot and mixing stuff like they in some sort of like argon lab level chemistry set type thing, right? They having fun. Yeah, they wasn't supposed to be there, obviously, but they didn't mean any real harm. Well, they get to mixing stuff, boom, like an explosive reaction, starts a small fire, burns one of the kids' faces. He runs up out of, he had to go to the hospital. Right, so he was caught clearly, and he had to explain what happened, and they charged him with arson, and he wasn't an arsonist. Like I knew him, he wasn't an arsonist, but he was the son of a very famous professional football player at the time, Chicago Bear, and so. The next day, it was all over the news, and it wasn't too shocking that it was all over the news because his father was a football star. But they spun it like he was this deeply troubled, fucked up kid who whose relationship with his celebrity father was so dysfunctional that he was driven to burn the school down. And it was crazy because, you kind of wanted to assume that, something like that was attached to his celebrity father status, until you realize that, like the average white son of a white football star, that would be the reason that there would be no charges brought, and the reason there would be no big deal made of it. And so it made me think about, matter of fact, Katie, if could you play clip 2? And so let me the intro, right? The ringleader of the mob of Italian youngsters who attacked Leonard Clark in 1997 was the son of a Chicago mob boss. And so I bring that up because this is the son of a powerful criminal, right? Not revered athlete, but the son of a powerful criminal. And I remember, but play the clip, please.
I left Stateway and started writing up what I learned.
During South Street Journal's interview with Cleveland, coverage of the accused teens aired on a television news clip. Frank Caruso, who is now denying any participation in the attack, was filmed saying, "Get that camera out of my face before I break your head."
My team and I have spent years digging into this case. We've pored over probably 1,000 newspaper clippings. And that detail, what Frankie said to the camera, we've only seen it in one other newspaper article outside mine. If he was black, that would have played over and over everywhere, all the time.
Camera out of my face, try to break your head. Oof.
Right, so what was interesting is that I remembered that. I wrote about it in 97 for the small newspaper called the South Street Journal that was started in the projects, and it never left my mind. So when we go back to do the story, I remember that. And so, but this audio podcast, working with some amazing journalists, right? And so they want to find that audio, and we couldn't find it for nothing, to the point that it had me questioning, like, did it happen? Am I tripping? Was I? Because memory is something else. And I'm like, I was kind of embarrassed. Like, are they gonna think that like I'm just paranoid and made something up? Like, I know it made me forget. It made me wonder. And so when we found it, I was just relieved that like, okay, y'all know I wasn't lying, and I didn't just put something in the newspaper trying to be hyperbolic or whatever. And that makes me think about. So imagine that, right? Like, I know this happened. That's my experience. I lived it. There's I don't know anything else. They say experience is the best teacher. I don't know anything else. This wasn't a post. It wasn't a meme. And its erasure made me question whether it happened. Conversely, when you push these narratives and tell these communities, you tell young black boys that they savages and super predators, they internalize it. And then when you tell our communities that that's who our boys are, our communities internalize it. And our communities gets to overpowering their lived realities. They get to the messaging, they experience the messaging more than they do their own realities. Especially when you're scrolling all day. You actually, people are taking in these images and these depictions, and it gets to overpowering what they know happens when they walk outside their own house. I was watching the news with my aunt recently, and it was like, it was everything we've been talking about, the standard fare, right? Like, it don't really be talking about crime is news. It don't even really be news. Like, obviously crime kind of can be news, because when you open the paper, first or second page, you'll see what politicians might have been embezzling funds. That's a crime. You'll see war crimes, call crimes, but then you go to the crime section, and it's how many black people got shot, how many times, over how many hours, on what streets, in what black neighborhoods, and that's it. It's like looking at the statistics parts of the sports section or something. It's just numbers. It ain't no stories about people. It ain't no stories about and then the thing is, so anyway, I'm watching the news with my aunt, and it's that type of thing. And it's one of them weekends where it's a lot of people shot in Chicago, and I can see her face starting to frown. I can see concern taking over her face, right? I can see the stress overcoming her, right? We live in Hyde Park. We not, like I say, we between things, but we're relatively safe. You know what I mean? We're very safe, actually, relatively speaking. But we travel. We don't just stay in Hyde Park. Anyway, she's like, it's so bad out here. You don't even want to go outside, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, okay, well, check this out. Let's break it down, though, right? It was 2023, like 600, 650, 640 murders. And that ain't a small number, you know what I mean? But we got 2.6 million people in Chicago. And that's like, the number's like 0.0002%. Like you 5,000 times more likely to die in a car accident. You know what I'm saying? Than you are in Chicago. But you don't see the newspapers riding Elon Musk for Teslas. You know what I'm saying? You don't get that the type. It's disproportionate. It's ridiculous. And so as I'm talking to her, I'm like, if you didn't watch the news, if you ain't talked to nobody who watched the news, and you just all you knew is what you see, how would you feel? How scared would you be? Who do you know? And so she don't come from the background I come from, right? I know people who've been murdered. I know people who've murdered people, but I chose to play a game where that happens. The same way America chooses to play games where that happens, right? If you got small nations of little black boys on the south side of Chicago and other cities too, who can't call on the law, who haven't had access to opportunity and education, right? But what they have had access to is a bunch of dope. And ain't nobody to help them police that. So they can't call the cops like, this dude's trying to sell my dope. So they understand that they've gotten into a world where they have to police themselves. The same way America is in a world where it has to police itself. And people, it strikes people when I compare countries to, street factions. But what's really the difference, right? These are human beings navigating life with other human beings. And actually, these little street gangs actually are way more infringed upon by each other than a lot of these countries are. So as I'm asking my aunt, like, what do you think then? She's like, well, I know Rhonda's daughter, somebody pulled a gun on her and tried to take her car. Okay, when was that? That was like a couple months ago. Okay, that's one person over the past couple months. And she started to realize, like, it ain't as bad. Yeah, turn this shit off, auntie. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not making you as smart as you think it is. We got to get out here and experience real life and kind of start to see for ourselves what's really going on. And so that's, we had a talk last night, fabulous talk. The panelists and everything, we was at dinner last night, and we was like, damn, what we finna do? Like, what are we about to do with what's going on in this country? And we talked about all of the things, right? Misinformation, willful ignorance, disinformation. You got people voting against their own interests. And so it reminded me of a story that Jamie Calvin, the founder of the Invisible Institute, told me. And he was talking about, he had worked with somebody who was like a converted, reformed Klan member type, like a white supremacist who had, found Jesus and got it right. And the dude was telling him, like, yeah, logic don't do it. And I think that's obvious to us, right? Because we are sending out information that disproves and debunks the bullshit all the time, and they want to argue. Somebody said, where buddy at? Somebody said last night how yeah, Trump disappoints the pedophile, and what happened to everybody talking about Pizzagate, right? Like, what we doing here? You know what I'm saying? What do we? And so we got to question ourselves. So it's a lot of people. So again, logic don't work. And I understand that because I understand and have seen firsthand what it means for young men who don't have no sense of belonging and feel neglected and don't see nothing working out for them. They have a need for that. Like how do you feel if every time you open the paper, when you see your face or a face that looks like yours, it's going to jail, it's getting killed, it's scaring everybody. So now you walk around the street and you either keep your hands in your pocket and try to make sure that everybody know you're not him, and you walk with your eyebrows up and a smile, and because you want everybody to feel safe, and you constantly trying to figure out how to make people feel better about you. Or you like, you know what? Yeah, I'm on that. I'm on that. And that's one of the, I think that's what makes me most angry about the subhuman 3/5 super predator black savage narrative is when I see it internalized. All right, so man, I'm gonna talk to y'all, man. We came here, man, and white folks, and this ain't, look, this ain't like an indictment of, clearly it's a lot of white folks here, but also, so I want to preface it, because I don't like alienating nobody. As angry as I get and have been, I do realize that, and I'm realizing it more and more, that the best thing we can do really is lead with love. It really is. I used to kind of push off Martin Luther King. He's soft like Malcolm. I'm on that Malcolm time. But that love piece, especially now that, these folks have kind of, like, man, my grandmama and them roll over in their grave if they saw what these evangelical folks is doing in the name of Jesus, man. And so, you kind of got to reclaim Jesus. But Jesus wasn't no punk. I'm rambling, but my point is that we also have a lot of white allies, and our white allies are important as hell. I tell my brothers and my sisters a lot, like, no, I'm not trying to cape for white people, but you gotta recognize the value. We outnumbered, we outmanned, we outgunned, and ain't no real progress for black people taking place in this country without some well-meaning white folks who are really ready to ride. We've seen evidence and proof of how we can better these situations. I was watching a piece Henry Louis Gates had on Reconstruction on PBS last week, and what I didn't know, and we talked about this last night too. Like, why didn't we know this though? Like, this American history, why this wasn't taught? So you got to start to wonder, like, well, how long has this censorship and erasure really been going on? Why wouldn't you tell us this? Why, we had to take the U.S. Constitution test and all these. Why I didn't know this? Why I didn't know that after all these centuries of slavery, like 10 years into Reconstruction, black folks thriving, healthy families, don't need nobody in the government, walk with esteem, and everything that these papers say we can't be, we were. 10 years out of slavery, right? But that was because the Union actually had white folks protecting us from the Confederates because they knew what time they was on. Right? And so that if you give us protection and if you give us access and you just let us be human, we gonna work it out. We just give us access to the basics. But they stopped that. And I don't know how many of these police and white supremacists know that. I imagine they don't, because I'm just figuring it out. So the information is out here. And so, but my point is, these youngsters internalize that, and that's what hurts. And so white folks brought us here, and again, my father, we talk real frankly, and as a youngster, I would hear I would hear my uncles and them talk about crackers. And he told me, crack, but he was like, no, all white people ain't crackers. Crackers are those Southern Confederates who want to hang us. Crackers are those people who want to hold on to white supremacy. So I feel very comfortable using it now, but I need to preface it because I want y'all to understand who I'm talking to and about and who I'm not. So obviously I also grew up around the word niggas. And I understand that it was a term, obviously, created by white folks to describe, by crackers, to describe black folks. And over time, black folks, we're a hell of a people, man. We're gonna take a verb and make it a noun. We're gonna do some things with language, man, because we're gonna tune in a different kind of way because we've had to, because we've been locked out of the system of etiquettes. And so, I do understand what white folks were saying when they was calling us niggas. They wasn't calling us niggas in the way a lot of my homies call each other they nigga, right? But the nigga they talking about, they created. Crackers created the nigga that they scared themselves of. Because now you got little black boys who embrace the term savage, who rap it, and these are huge media corporations pushing it. So media ain't just journalism, media is storytelling. Why is that? Why Empire City ain't a movie? Why sis work on LA gangs and police? Why that ain't a movie? Why we ain't telling them stories? Who's doing what? So, but my point of this is that what we're gonna have to do moving forward is we're gonna have to hunker down. Because it's gonna be some real pain experienced by some people. The type of pain, real pain has been experienced before, right? But it's gonna get realer. And so what happened, in my estimation, with this election, some more controversial shit I'm gonna say, right? I'm not really all that politically correct, but politics ain't really correct right now, so fuck it. I was having a conversation with my father, and I was like, Pops, how did y'all treat EIP kids when you was a shorty, when you was young? And he's like, y'all know what EIP is, right? So EIP is educationally, IEP, thank you. What is it? Individualized Education Plan. Boom. We didn't even know that when we was youngsters. We knew what we did because we didn't understand and we weren't open-minded enough and Christ-like enough to value people who weren't as resourced as us. So we called them slow and retarded and all these terrible things. And but I asked Pops, how did y'all treat the IEP kids? He said, we treated them kindly. You know what I mean? We treated them like family. We might not have been in the same social circles, but we were in segregation. So the best of us in our families lived with the worst off of us in our families. And so we all kind of took care of each other. And I was telling them that when I was growing up, we kind of ignored them. They were like kind of over there. They had their own wing of the school. The worst of us might have treated them badly, said bad things to them. I never did that. I was never that kid. And the best of us might have been real kind to them and protecting them from those who were speaking badly to them. But all in all, it evened out. Most of us just ignored them. Them kids grew up, right? And they saw us ignore them. And we ignored them in other ways. And we all do, and myself included. And when I say we got to hunker down, I want to inspire you to find the spirit to hunker down with them based on the fact that if you examine your moves in your life, even those of us who have done the most incredible things, and a lot of y'all in here have done some incredible things, we still complicit. We have still turned a blind eye to the fact that public education is predicated on property tax. We've turned a blind eye to the fact that there are food deserts in the same communities that public education is predicated on property tax. And we've blamed babies for the experiences that we've turned a blind. We might vote against it and talk against it in rooms like this amongst each other, but it's happening over there, and for the most part, we try to move away from that, and we try to put as much distance between ourselves and them as possible. But they over there, and they see us over here, and they know we don't come. They know we don't fuck with them, right? And so Trump and them, they realize that IEP kids can vote, and they slide in like, look, they ignoring you. They left you, they don't care about you, and they also know that these kids didn't get much of an education, are very ill-informed, very uninformed, so they can tell them lies. They can tell them, actually, we've been trying to help you, but they've been stopping us. We've been trying to save you, but they did this and that and the third to you. And some of it's true, but a lot of it's not. And so they're like, damn, they did do that to me, and I am feeling alone, and I have felt neglected. It's like, well, all right, I know you have, but we've been trying to help you. And here go $1,200, vote for me. And that's what happened. And they woke up our sleeping giant. They activated our sleeping giant because we didn't know. So we are complicit. We can be real mad at them for telling lies and getting them on their side, but we also got to realize that we let them in the house. We let them through the gate. Those kids, and obviously this is analogous or whatever, but that population is about to suffer real bad. And it's a lot of us, originally after Tuesday, I kind of was like, I can't wait till you suffer so I can say that's what you get. And then I had to stop being mad. I was emotional. Because I was just so angry, and I realized I can't be mad at them. I got to be mad for them. I got to be mad at the white supremacist structure that has put them in this position. I got to be mad at myself for letting it happen because I'm supposed to be my brother's keeper. And so what I realized is that when it gets bad for them, we're going to have to hunker down with them because them people not. When it gets bad for them, them people are not going to help them. And they're going to be looking for some help again. And that's when we're going to have to be Christ-like, and we're going to have to swallow our pride. And even though we know that they voted against their interests, we got to remember they didn't know no better. Anybody got like drug-addicted family members? Right? You don't gauge what they doing like they in their right mind when they doing it. They steal from your mama's house. And you don't do to them what you would do to a stranger who steal from your mama's house because you know what it is. They got a problem. And so when it gets bad for them, you sit there with them. And you sacrifice your day and your time to spend it with them to help them. We got to get closer to the people, y'all. We got and so what I've learned. Okay, you know what? Can you play clip 1?
The South Street Journal office was on 47th. It was right across from this big apartment building.
47th Street used to be the Mecca in black community. Like that building, the Rosenwald. That's where Nat King Cole, Quincy Jones, Ida B. Wells, all lived in that building.
But that heyday was 100 years ago. When I got to Ron's office in 97, it was smack dab in the middle of the hood. Ron was living in the projects when he started the paper. He was frustrated because he felt like our stories weren't being written by us. And even the black papers weren't writing for black folks on the margins. Ron wanted to create a paper that would.
I went to every black newspaper, and they all said the same thing to me. That paper ain't gonna make no money. You talking about doing a paper like that, it ain't gonna make no money. So I just said it ain't about money anyway. So I had $200, my mama had $200, our cousin had $200, and that's how I got started. And that was 93.
In the mid-90s, the South Street Journal was everywhere on the low end. Ron would hand deliver them to barbershops, nail salons, Harold's Chickens, and the paper's been on the stands ever since.
Even though I run a newspaper, I'm more of a community organizer than a newspaper man. I just use the newspaper as a tool to push my agenda.
Yeah, so Ron Carter operated a newspaper that I started writing on the Lenard Clark story in '97. And the reason that clip is important to me is because, like I said, it wasn't about the money. Now, look, I'm not saying that we go out here and we can't starve ourselves, we gotta feed our babies, but that's the spirit we need. That's the spirit we need. And man, he walked so we could fly. He is not doing well today, financially, physically, and it hurts. And it hurts because I know that he hadn't been able to care for himself because he's been selfless. Man, he could, man, and he also wasn't even equipped. The only newspaper experience this man had when he started his paper was having delivered newspapers. And he got out there and he put everything in it, right? And that's the spirit we need. However, we do got to be smart. We do got to learn from these experiences, right? Like, shout out to Morgan, right? Like, we talking about we got to start thinking of new business models. We got to think radically different. When I came home, I was frustrated. I got homies who, when I left, man, I used to be the smartest guy in the room among my guys. But when I came home, they had social media. and somehow, they didn't realize, somehow they felt like they was the smartest guys in the room. And it would be interesting to me. It kind of pissed me off. Y'all, well, you know me, and you believe in some cats you ain't never seen in your life, don't know you, can't call nothing. You believe him over me because you seen him on your phone, bro? And I'm telling you what I know, me, for real. You, all right. But yeah, so we need new business model. We gotta think radically different. Boom. When I came home, what pissed me off was hearing so many of my homies talk about how they wasn't gonna vote, didn't want to do nothing with the system because they two wings of the same bird. And I'm like, how could that be? As hard as they fighting, how could they be two wings of the same bird? That's the most dysfunctional bird. It don't work. They can't be. And we argued, and I finally started seeing what they were saying, though. Right? I mean, because the differences in the wings are meaningful enough for us to vote for the wing, for the left wing. But the thing is, that left wing and that right wing, they are both about maintaining a certain status quo in these systems. There is that education, property tax situation. It's the systems that we got to change. We got to think about, and it's radical, y'all, but we got to be radical because these folks are radical. These folks are coming with something we haven't seen before. So if we don't do the same to fight back, we in trouble. You can't have somebody wage war on you, tell you what the rules are, break them, and you stick to them. That's fucking crazy. We gonna lose. So we gotta think radically different, man. We gotta think about this stuff in ways that, folks and system folks is gonna tell us we crazy for. We have to. We got to figure out how to make some for-profit business models, man. I'm working at Invisible Institute. I love them. It's a godsend. I pray for us because we are a hell of an organization. And a lot of not-for-profits doing the work that y'all represent and we work with. Clearly, they're important organizations because they helping us do incredible work. But when I got to learning and working with the fundraisers and the people in charge of money at the Invisible Institute, understanding like, wait, you got how many hundreds of thousands last year, and you need it again? If you give me $300,000, I'm out your way. You're not gonna see me again. I'm good. I'm gonna figure it out. This is like the model. Respectfully, is like the biggest welfare queen thing ever. Like, You stay relying on that handout. We got to figure out how to make new business models. We got to figure out, if you're in legacy media, you got to figure out how to lend. You're privileged, and you got to figure out how to lend that privilege to independent media outlets. And if you're an independent media outlet doing your thing, you got to figure out how to click with other independent media outlets. The Chicago Defender shouldn't be failing. We got to figure out how do we grow, right? Like, what is it? You move fast along, far together. We got to click up. These people, look. Oh, okay. You know what? Play. Oh, no. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah. What I want to say about Ron Carter is we need that spirit. We need that spirit where it ain't about the money, but we know we got to get the money, right? Journalism has to be a tool. You got to decide, are you a journalist first or a freedom fighter? Journalism is a tool for freedom fighters. Otherwise, freedom fighting is just something you can step in as a journalist and step out. And if that's the case, my ego wants to say, well, we don't need y'all. But the truth is, we got to just realize, okay, allies are tools, and at some point, them tools don't work on certain jobs, and that's cool. But we can't throw our whole lot in with y'all. I'm sorry, I want to look at the next clip. I'd like you to. Yeah, can you play clip 3, please?
What does a policing system do in a society? What is its function? In most cases, the function is to protect the haves from the have-nots, to protect property, but there becomes an exception when black people enter the equation.
She was a cop, but she was an activist first. She wrote a book called Black Ain't Blue.
Law enforcement is a public entity, and it should always come under public scrutiny. You're supposed to criticize it.
When she talked to me, she was concerned for her safety. I didn't name her in my article, but I feel okay saying it now, though, because Miss Hill died a few years back.
So when I started investigating the Lenard Clark case, I wanted to figure out what was going on at the police station. And I had grown up with the daughter of Pat Hill, who was the president of the African American Police League in Chicago. So I talked to her, and she gave me the skinny. She told me how, the Caruso, that's a mob family whose son was a lead attacker. The Carusos and their lawyers had come in and just taken over the station. And the cops on duty, the black cops on duty, this is what they told her. She wasn't there. And she was like, they'd never seen nothing like that. That had never happened before. But see, Bridgeport, which is the neighborhood where this happened, and where these cops and with his family and their lawyers took over the station, Bridgeport has historically been like a racist, sundown town of a neighborhood in Chicago that our mayors came from. Our entire political machine came from a neighborhood of open racist folks, as did the police. So my point is, they're linked up. They're media, people who own that type of time, they police who own it, they link up, right? The police have always, in my estimation, like back to my buddy who was labeled an arsonist because the police called him that, and then the media runs with that story. That school no damage was done, by the way. No damage was done to the school, but this kid gets labeled an arsonist, right? The media, for people who come from the places we trying to fight for, has always just been an extension of the police. We got to show them we not, right? Or we got to find the police who can admit and acknowledge that they not doing it right, and there are some serious problems, and we gotta link up. We need people. She was revolutionary. She was radical. You don't hear police talking like that. That's what we got to encourage. And this ain't just for journalists and storytellers, whatever you do. Again, culture is communication. If you communicate through whatever you do, like I'm also a designer, you can communicate anti-white supremacists through your design. through how you talk to folks, however you moving. But it's a 24/7 job, right? Ron Carter has lived his entire life in pursuit of justice for us. Pat Hill lived her entire life in pursuit of that, and they had to forego a certain level of material comfort, and that's what it's gonna take. Like that's what it's gonna take. You know, I think about, you know, again, journalism as a tool. We got to remember our whys. Like, what are we doing? Why are we telling these stories? We can't be storytellers just for the sake of being storytellers, just for the sake of the pursuit of truth, right? We got to pursue truth to an end. Because again, otherwise it's like, it's a lot of people, like black celebrities and influencers or whatever, who will promote voting and tell black folks to vote. Like, but solely because your ancestors died for the right to. As if people marched and died just to stand in line at polls, right? They died to get their hands on some weapons. They died to get the right to vote so they could weaponize those ballots and stamp out white supremacy in the quest for a true democracy. We got to pick a side, and we got to let people know what side we pick. We got to organize. My man was talking earlier about strategic organizing, and it moved the fuck out of me, man, because that's where it is. One thing this crisis has done is present an opportunity, is drawing some lines, and we can know who's who. We can know who's on our side. And then we all know somebody on the other side, and we can point out to each other who they are, right? Because we got to figure out who we got. And then we got to figure out who we can get. There's some people you just know we can't get. When I work with these shorties in the street, I see youngsters who he's still salvageable. He ain't caught a body yet. He ain't got so immersed in this culture that he can't get out. He ain't got that attitude like they took too many of my cousins. It ain't no peace. It can never be peace. He ain't there yet. But some of these other ones, I know, God bless them, that they gonna have to see, jail or worse. And I wind up praying that they just see jail so they can figure it out. And that's fucked up. But some of them, like, we can still get him. And there are some people on the other side we can still get. We got to go young, though. Like, we got to get at these babies. And so, like, amazing work. So I think about my own work. I'm proud of it. I've been wanting to get this story off my chest and out my head for decades. But it has not reached the people that most need to hear it. Because the people that most need to hear it don't listen to audio podcasts. Unless it comes with some spectacle. Right? When you ain't pursuing intellectual, not intelligent, but intellectual, then your information is going to require some spectacle because you got to feel it. They got to feel something. We are all informed enough and intellectually sophisticated enough to share all these facts and all this information, and we get it. Man, the worst of us ain't. We only as strong as our weakest link. And so when the weak link break, but we all kept all this strength up here, how we mad at it? We gotta move down there to that weak link and strengthen that thing up. We gotta shore that up. And like Ron Carter, when I met him. So when I first heard about Lenard Clark, I did what I know. And I went and got my guys, like, we going over here, man. We finna handle business. We finna get some get back. They not finna do no little boy like that this close to me and I don't do something. Not after I've been growing up all these years talking about I'd have been with Nat Turner, Harriet Tubman. No, we gotta go. That ain't work. We 6 black dudes walking over in this all-white neighborhood like we was emotional. I'm glad we got out of there, actually. But I started writing about it, and I was able to, because of my own background in the streets, and the way I could navigate these neighborhoods, coupled with the fact that Ron Carter, mind you, came from the projects, he was able to put me right in tune with people where I could walk right up in them buildings, sit down with Lenara Clark mama, sit down with the little boy who was with him and got chased up out of there, sit down with his mama, and they was like, nobody came in here and talked to us like this. The trucks came and they stayed outside the building. They had to come down in front of a big crowd. They talked to them for 10 minutes, packed up and got out of there like they were scared of them. Why you here? You phony, man. Why you here? That's like like these conservative folks who act like they care so much about the lives of unborn babies. How you care about the lives of unborn babies when once they get born, you trying to do everything you can to not give them nothing if they coming in here, with a disadvantage? Why you care so much about how much money goes to police to stop this crime when you way over there, you don't even come over here, and you don't want no help sent to us, but you care about the crime and you ain't worried about my safety. You can't. So what's the motive, right? I'm a little all over the place because I couldn't write all of this down. So back to Pat Hill. We got to lock in with each other, other folks. I want to say to black folks in the audience, as far as we truly know, we all we got. To our white allies, we need y'all to hunker down. I feel like a lot of times our white allies are feel like they under a threat. See, when I look at these conservatives, when I look at these MAGA folks, what I see like a readiness to fight. Like they ready to go. Like they on like tough time. They ready to push. We not. Our allies don't feel as ready to hit the battlefield as they do. But the thing is, it's kind of like the Civil War. Like we ready though. Like y'all ain't gotta be. We ready. We just need y'all help. We need y'all to show us where the keys are. We need y'all to talk to them as best you can. And if that don't work, we need you to show us where the keys are. And y'all can, just help us strategize. We'll go. Because we ain't got no choice. And so, and to all the other ethnicities, if you truly, the measure of how much your anti-supremacist meter goes is directly correlated to how tight you finna rock with black people. Because we are the first blueprint for white supremacy. The playbook they running on y'all, they been running on us. And every time they running on y'all, man, we jump in with y'all, man. We jump in with y'all 10 toes, right? I remember being in the joint and seeing like the DACA Dreamer stuff. And black folks was on the front line. I was proud of us. That was some cool shit to see, right? Because we always talk about the black and brown communities. It's only a few brown people who say that. When shit went bad and BLM was a thing, I didn't see the numbers of brown people rocking like I saw the numbers of black people rocking with Dreamers. And it reminded me of, I was just sharing this with Chenjerai, it reminded me of a dynamic I saw in the joint. When I get to the joint, I did 10 years. So the demographics and the composition and the makeup of the inmate population would shift. I got there and it was like, maybe half, maybe about the same numbers of black and white, and then a lot lesser, a much smaller number of Mexicans. And the Mexicans, they was like so cool. They was so cool. It was like, okay, this is what's up. This, it was love. They was with us, and we was with them. And as soon as their numbers got up, as soon as it was like more Mexicans than blacks, The Mexicans jumped in with the Aryan Nation. And there was race wars, and they wasn't with us no more. And I'll never forget that. And it felt, and I was reminded of that when I saw, this crazy number of Latino men who voted for Trump against their own interests and ours. And that's, but look, there are black men who have decided they want to be in closer proximity to white supremacy too. So it's not just about color. I'm just telling you what I'm noticing, and I'm speaking in generalizations. You know what I mean? I'm trying to preface this with love so you understand, like, I'm not, I love people, period, though. Like, I really do love my enemies. Because I really do understand that, I think it's got to be some number of them who just got something bad in their heart. It has to be. There's no way. There's no way you keep this up. There's no way there's no way. But I know a lot of people are just misled, man. And so, yeah, we got to lead with love. We got to lock in. Could you play clip 4? You gotta wrap up. Okay. Oh, you know what? Cool. 45 minutes seem like so long. We can go to questions. Yeah. If there's any questions, we can go to questions. I should have wrote something down because I'm gonna just go. You're just fine. Don't worry. Yeah. Does anybody have any? Like I said, I don't have a lot of statistics, but I share whatever I got. I'm sorry.
I really don't have a question. I just wanted to say I love how you brought in education connected to this type of school system connected with property values. Just think that's so core and so key. And that's all I wanted to say.
I appreciate it. It's a system we got to change. We got to figure out how.
Yes. So, brother, I just wanted to thank you for everything that you showed us, for telling your story and for some of these areas that you walked into that are complicated, right? They're complicated for people who kind of are on the left of this. But I think that your points about, the Southside Journal, the role it played was important. Your points about locking in, even your points really resonated about the way that media actually can cloud how people see their own experience in their own community, right? That they're taking that in, right? All these things I think are so relevant to this conference. I guess my question for you is, it seems what you're telling us, like, I almost feel like what you shared with us was like, since you've been out in particular, you seeing, like, on the one hand, this understanding of what we got to do, but moving kind of between these communities and seeing some of these gaps where, like, we're not even as journalists quite hitting what needs to be hit. I'm wondering, what you see as, have there been points of connection? I'm not trying to get you to sort of paint a rosy picture of it at all. That's not what I want to do. But in terms of pointing the way forward, have there been moments where you've seen, things, pieces of media, ways of doing this work that you're like, this is a thing we need more of? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely I have, and I see it, and thank you, bro. It means a whole lot from you, too. I've seen where people so for instance, Jamie Calvin, right? This dude, this white guy, this Jewish guy from Hyde Park, put himself in the State Street corridor, the longest stretch of public housing in Chicago for years. He lived there, right? So, and so he showed people he was with them. So he has created journalism that people in the projects, they might not read his work, but if he tell them what it's about, they believe him because he has gotten their trust, right? When I tell my guys what's going on, they believe me because I'm there with them, right? We got to get there with them, right? And we can't talk to them from this because they already got so much coming from this, and we also don't talk on here like we talk to people. Right? And that might not mean, y'all can just go move in the projects and immerse yourself and learn the language like that, but you can get somebody who does. You can get close to somebody. There's one clip. I'm not going to ask you to play it, but okay, play the last clip, and I'm going to speak on that because it answers your question.
All right.
Please.
And then we got to jump.
All right. This is it. So this is.
I'm just asking question. So,
Remember Hot Rod? He one of the brothers I met in prison, and he grew up in Stateway too. There's a thing in the hood called a big homie. It's a title given to men who've navigated these streets without compromising their integrity. They've earned the respect of the younger men who are still trying to find their way. And Hot Rod is the big homie for a lot of people from Stateway, including Leonard. They met up at a restaurant downtown near Leonard's job.
tell me this. Why you been reluctant to tell your story and why you choose now to tell your story? Because I know, like you said, you been wanting to tell your story, but because of your experience of people just trying to benefit off you,
Facts.
you didn't want to share your story. So talk to me about that now.
It's to the point where a lot of folks be trying to get me to talk and conversate and come out my shell about any and everything, but at this point, I don't trust people. I don't even really like people, to be really honest, as far as when it comes to trying to obtain information. Now, at this point, when I'm coming out now, because it's pretty much a situation as far as comfortability, trust, relationship-wise, He come from where I come from.
And so that's my point, right? Leonard Clark wouldn't talk to me. And I've been in a joint. I know his people, I know his big homies, I know, you know what I mean? And he wouldn't talk to me, right? And because I was a journalist and I was asking questions. And we don't trust him. Well, because why would we? Because ultimately, the picture that the media has painted of us is about as dangerous and harmful as the treatment we've suffered from the hands of police. So we lump them up. But I weaponized Hot Rod. I weaponized my network. I weaponized my relationship. Y'all ain't done this work and not met people closer to it that you can weaponize them. And Chandra Rod, that's what I suggest we do.
Thank you, Yohance.
I appreciate you. Thank you.